back to Keisha's Crumbs. How are y'all doing today? I hope everybody's off to a fabulous 2025. I know that I am. A lot of aspirations, goals, organizing, cleaning, decluttering everything physically, home, heart, mind, body. Clean it all up. Let's get started. We're going to fry up some beautiful Louisiana catfish fillets, and we are going to fry them up. We're having fish and grits. Okay, so these are really good grits. They're called quick 5-minute grits, and basically we're going to do a 4 serving amount. So we already have our grits measured out. Instead of water, we're going to create like a chicken broth by adding in this chicken better than bouillon. We're going to use this kosher buttermilk with this pepper jack and cheddar cheese to make our delicious cream sauce to go on top. And I also have some bacon in the air fryer that we're going to add. So we're just going to use this Morton Nature's seasoning blend, which is basically just your salt, pepper, and garlic and onion powder. And then we always use the Louisiana fish fry, y'all. If you want to create your own fish fry with just meal, you can, but I will tell you this is the best fish fry on the market. I love it because the lemon is already in it. And sometimes if you're lucky enough, you can find the spicy version. But this is delicious. It is already seasoned. So you really, if you don't like much seasoning on your fish, you don't have to add any seasoning at all. I still like to add just a little light layer of seasoning. So that's why we're going with the Morton's. But this has seasoning already in it and the lemon, and that's what makes the difference. It is delicious. Of course, we're going to coat this fish in mustard. And although I'm having this carb with the fish, the grits, I'm also going to create. Okay, so you see the beautiful off the vine tomatoes we have there, some red onion, English cucumber, and scallion. You'll see that again later. Right now, even though I have dabbed the fish off beforehand, another secret is that you want to make sure you continue to pat it dry. The fish will steadily release water, especially if it has been frozen prior. It will steadily release water, and the water will just prevent the fry from adhering to your fish. Another thing we're going to do is create strips. Now, a catfish fillet comes with these lines naturally. So what I suggest you do is just take a very sharp knife and cut it down the middle. There's always a line somewhat center of the fillet, and you can cut it there to make some nice meaty strips. If you didn't know, and if you haven't seen it before, you can also cut your catfish fillet into nuggets, not the catfish fillet nuggets that they sell in the store, but you can basically create catfish chunks by cutting up your fillet into bite-sized pieces, and that is delicious as well. But regardless of how you cut your fish, what's very important in order for your meal or your fry to adhere is that you need to make sure you dab it off. So you can see here that I have my baking sheet lined in paper towel and parchment, as well as I have steadily dabbed the fillets with a paper towel to make sure that we don't have too much moisture. I was holding the fillet up right initially so that you could get a better view, but of course the easiest way to cut it down the middle is to just lay it on a flat surface. Take a very sharp knife and just run your knife down that middle seam of the fillet. Remember, this fish fry is already seasoned, but if you do choose to use some additional light seasoning, go in with your seasoning before you apply the mustard. Again, we're going to use this Morton's Nature Seasoning. It's called Nature Seasoning for a reason, because it is mostly just salt, light salt, and then the rest is mostly herbs and garlic powder, onion powder, things of that sort, parsley. And so you want to make sure that you lightly season both sides. So I'm turning the fish over and I'm doing the underside of it. At this point, if you were to take each of those strips and cut it up into chunks, then you would have some great catfish nuggets, if you would. And that's for people who like the crust. You know, if you like a lot of crust on your meat, then if you cut it up, of course, you would have more surface area to adhere the actual crust. But as you can see, I'm going in with this Heinz mustard. Now, quite honestly, my favorite is French's. I have a preference for French's mustard. But I have to say that Heinz is more yellow. As you can see here, I mean, this is realistically the color. It is a bright yellow, much more bright than the French's mustard. So when you fry up this fish, it's going to give you a much prettier color and a much more golden finish on your crust. And you know, I mentioned earlier how you could cut these strips up into little bite-sized pieces to make real catfish nuggets. Well, you can do the same with salmon. I don't know if you've ever fried salmon before, but salmon fillets cut into bite-sized pieces and then breaded are delicious. So if that's something you've never seen and you'd like to see me do that, just leave me a comment down below. In the world of cooking, this mustard is what we refer to as our binder. It is the wet substance that is going to help our dry seasoning adhere. So what you saw me doing was looking through each of the strips on both sides to make sure that we had the same amount of mustard consistently distributed throughout the fish strips. Now I'm going to sprinkle the fish fry on top of it. Again, I'll make sure I do both sides. Now, you would normally see someone, especially a home cook, take, the fish and put it in a bag and shake it up. But catfish is really flimsy when you have the fillets, and sometimes they'll fold over on one another inside of a bag if you're using a container or a bag to shake the fish up instead of laying it flat and evenly patting the breading on the way you see me doing it. And so that's why I've decided to just bread it right here on the actual cookie sheet. That's the benefit of having a cookie sheet. You can take your paper towel and blot the fish fillets dry, and then you can season, and then you can adhere your mustard, and then you can bread all on the same cookie sheet. The parchment helps keep everything neat and tidy, and helps us have an easier cleanup process as well. So I've sprinkled the fish fry on one side, turned it over after gently pressing it in, and now I'm going to sprinkle more on the other side. You want to make sure that you press your breading in just gently. Gently press it in, number one, so that it can adhere properly. And number two, when you get ready to put your fish in the oil, you won't have so much of the fry or the meal come off loosely into your oil, which will make your oil dirty. It'll make it burn fast and things of that sort. So that's why it's important to make sure that you take your time when you're breading your fish or putting the meal on your fish, and make sure that it is adhering adequately. They sell this Louisiana fish fry in the stores. It normally comes in a bag, but this huge tub that you see I have here, I actually purchased at Sam's. I haven't seen it at Costco, but if you're interested in this size, look at Sam's wholesale and they should definitely carry it. So now that I've adhered the breading to both sides, I'm actually picking up one strip at a time and patting it in on one side, flipping it over, and patting it in on the other side. I'd be remiss not to mention the difference in deep frying versus regular pan frying. We are going to pan fry this fish. I rarely deep fry just for health reasons. I prefer to pan fry, where you're going to fry it on one side and then turn it and fry it on the other side. Having said that, deep fried food is normally prettier in appearance. Your coating will come out with a much more even color because basically the food is floating in oil. There are no sediments at the bottom of the pan to get stuck to your crust and things like that. Things you may see with the pan fry. So just keep in mind that yes, a deep fried looks better in appearance on both chicken and fish, but a pan fry is the healthier way to go. Just in case you decide to make grits to go with your southern fried fish, let's talk about it. We're making 4 servings of grits, which requires 1 cup of grits and 4 cups of liquid. This is the 4th cup of water I'm adding to the boiler. And then I want to create a chicken broth. So I'm going to put in some of this better than bouillon chicken base. Okay, that's a half a tablespoon. I'm putting in 3 of those, which is going to give me a tablespoon and a half. But it's up to you. These type of things you can alter to your taste and to your dietary needs. Now, here is the oil that I'll be frying the fish in. Again, as you can see, I have some oil that I'm using, and I use my oil more than once. So you can see the sediments of meal that have floated to the side because the oil has already heated up, right? So I like to use my oil more than once, at least twice, because it gives your food more flavor. So I just strain it off. You just use a sifter or a sieve, whatever you want to refer to it as, and you strain off those meal sediments, and then you use it again, and it gives your meat and your food so much more flavor. So that's what we're doing here. And as you can see, I'm going to let you hear for a second. Very important key things to remember. Make sure you don't crowd the pan and make sure the fish doesn't stick together. Don't move it around a lot. Don't take a fork and push it and poke it around. Once you put it in that hot oil, let it sit, because as you move fish around, you see people poking and prying and pushing it in the pan. You're releasing heat when you do that. Back to these grits, in case you're interested in making them. These are Quaker. They call them 5-minute grits, but honestly, I've never cooked them in 5 minutes. I will say that they cook much better and much quicker than the old school grits in a bag. We're making 4 servings, which requires 1 cup of grits and 4 cups of water and 1/4 teaspoon of salt. So as I stated earlier, we've added our 4 cups of water, but we put the better than bouillon in there, so we won't need any salt. If I wanted to cut this in half, then I would just halfen everything here. And it's best when you're changing the quantities on a serving for the recipe, go ahead and measure out everything beforehand. Don't try to measure as you cook. So you would take out a half of, if you were doing 2 servings, right? The serving size here is 4. If you wanted to do 2, then you would measure out a half a cup of grits, 2 cups of water, and 1/8 teaspoon, which is basically a dash of salt. On the other hand, if you wanted to double it and make 8 servings, you would do 2 cups, and you would double each thing. 2 cups of grits, 8 cups of water, and 1/4 plus 1/4 is a half a teaspoon of salt. Now, the fractions can get confusing, but all you have to do is put it in your phone. Ask Google, what is 1/4 times 2? Sometimes people don't know how to enter the measurements in as numbers in the calculator. You can literally click the microphone on Google and say, Google, what is 1/4 of a teaspoon plus 1/4 of a teaspoon? Google, what is 1/4 of a teaspoon times 2?
The answer is 0.5 U.S. teaspoons.
0.5 U.S. teaspoons. And if you don't know that 0.5 is a half, you could turn around and ask Google, what is 0.5 equal to? And it will tell you 1/2. The point I'm making is don't be afraid to alter your serving sizes. Even if this was a recipe with 10 or 12 ingredients, write all your ingredients down, get on Google, and multiply the ingredient amount times however much you're trying to do the recipe. If you're trying to double it, you multiply everything times 2. If you're trying to triple it, you multiply everything times 3. So just rewrite your ingredient amounts down when you ask Google for the updated amounts. Now our water or our chicken stock has come to a boil. So because we added the better than chicken bouillon, we're going to whisk everything together just to make sure that everything is really mixed well before we add in those grits. Because we know once we add those grits, it is literally on and popping. So we have 1 cup of grits that we're going to incorporate. As soon as you add the grits in, because these are quote unquote quick cook grits, and they do cook, they move pretty quickly. So you want to make sure, especially when your liquid is really hot, that you go ahead and start whisking right away. These grits are really easy to cook. You just have to make sure that you keep your temperature low. Once you start the grits, cover them. I did notice for the first time that the box doesn't tell you to cover the grits. I have no idea why they don't, but I definitely cover them to make sure that those grits get tender. And I'm setting my timer for 7 minutes. I have lowered the heat. Okay, so now we're back to the fish. This is like the second batch, so I'm actually going to show you what this fish looks like and what it sounds like. Now that the fish is browned on one side, I'm just flipping it over to make sure that it is done enough. And we're just going to move on from there. This is about the third batch. Again, we don't crowd the pan, so I've been putting about 4 pieces, 5 if they're on the smaller side, in at a time. When you're not deep frying and you're pan frying instead, start cooking with the flesh side down. Let your meat get as done as possible with the flesh side down, and then basically you just be turning the fish one time to brown it on the top. Okay, now it's probably really apparent to you why I put a top on these grits. I'm scared to take the top off, y'all. These grits are a dangerous thing. There's a reason why women use them as a tool, if you would, in the old days. But I have to be ready to whisk these up. If I wanted it to settle down some, I can kind of remove it off the heat like that and let them stop popping so much. That's really the safer thing to do. You see them grits popping? Baby, them grits are mad at somebody. And what you can also do, I'm just going to show you, I take one hand and kind of slowly lift it up. And once you start whisking it, of course, it won't pop as much. Since I'll be making the cheese sauce with a buttermilk base, I decided to add a splash of buttermilk in the grits. And oh my goodness, I am so glad I did. This was an experiment. I had never done it before, and it added such a wonderful flavor. Not only did it give a slight twang, if you would, a slight bite, almost like a sharp cheese would, to the grits, but it also gave it a very smooth texture. It changed the texture of the grits as well, I'm assuming because of the acid in the buttermilk. So that was a great addition. After I've added the buttermilk, and remember our broth was already made with the better than bouillon, these grits were some of the most delicious grits I have made in a very long time. Now you can see this last batch of fish is actually floating. So I'm getting ready to take it out. This batch, you can really see the color. See how it's not coloring book golden? You can see the brown bits on it. Where I'm from down south, color means flavor. And that's exactly what it means here. So I'm about to take it out. It's not lightly fried. It's fried crispy, just the way I like it. So let me know, what do you guys think? Everyone likes their fish and their chicken fried a little differently. Me personally, I like my fish fried hard, and I like my chicken fried a little on the softer side. It's so delicious. Can you taste it? Couple of tablespoons of better than bouillon. That's your consistency. Remember, I just finished cooking them, so they're gonna thicken up. If you like your grits thicker than this, Trust me, once they set up, they're gonna thicken. If you like them looser, while they're hot, right after you finish cooking them, just anticipate them thickening up. You can always add some more broth or water, whatever the case may be. But y'all, I came to tell you these grits are delicious. Look how creamy. That buttermilk, this buttermilk, y'all, I ended up putting another splash in there. I had to move fast, so I didn't get to show you, but I put another splash of buttermilk. And then remember, we started with our better than bouillon. Baby, it's all you need. So because you're here on Keisha's Crumbs, catch that crumb, you get to hear all my tips and tricks. This is definitely what I will be using in all of my brunch menu items that call for grits, shrimp and grits, fish and grits, chicken and grits. Oh, yes, it is delicious. You can see the texture. You can see the difference in that texture. They taste as creamy as they look, and you can even see how white they are. They are delicious, y'all. You have to give it a try. Y'all, this is our second batch of fish. Last but not least, regarding how to best fry, make sure that you use tongs to turn your meat. Please do not ever use a fork to poke the meat and then flip it, because you're letting out the flavor, or if it's chicken, you're letting out the moisture when you poke the fish. So it's just best to always use tongs. Now make sure you have a good pair of tongs, because if they aren't sturdy and if you can't maneuver them well, sometimes they'll cause the oil to flash up on you. So make sure you have a good pair of tongs when you're frying. That's how you can put the fish in the oil as well as take it out. Keep in mind, the second batch and third batch, every batch thereafter will always cook a little more quickly than the one prior, because the oil has heated up. So as long as you maintain the proper temperature, you're on a roll. And now I flipped it over and we're just getting color. Like, I could take this one out now. See how much more fish you got? All right, y'all, let's start this sauce. Quite honestly, I'm making it up as I go, so make note, okay? The pan is already hot, and we're going to use about a half a stick. This package has been used, half of it has already been used. So what I'm adding is a half a stick of butter. Now, to be honest with you, during this step, when you're making a cream sauce, it comes together more quickly when you first add whatever your cream is, whether it be milk, half and half, heavy whipping cream. If you add that to the pot before the butter, your sauce will come together much more quickly. I had a reason for melting my butter first, but just FYI, it's much easier and it comes together much faster when you add your cream, your milk, or your heavy whipping cream, and then add your butter later. But as you can see here, I wanted to saute my green onions. And so that's why I started with the butter first. And I actually let the butter cook a bit. I cooked off some of the cream where it could become a brown butter. Brown butter just gives you a much more intense flavor. It has a more intense aroma, and it just has more depth to the flavor. So you'll see different desserts named brown butter this, brown butter brownie, brown butter pound cake, brown butter chocolate chip cookies. That means that the butter has been cooked in this fashion. So now that we have the butter ready, we're going to go in with the veggies. We have some green onion that's already been cut up. And then I'm also going to add some garlic. Now we're allowing our green onions to cook down. And after we add the garlic, we're going to let it cook just a bit more. And just keep in mind that this is going to be a cream sauce. So we have our real cream butter, and then we have our aromatics. We're going to also add some fresh parsley. That was the garlic there. And we're going to make sure that we saute these vegetables down. And then we're going to turn it into a cheesy cream sauce using buttermilk, our cheddar cheese, and our pepper jack cheese. All right, y'all. So first of all, let's get ready to make this salad. This is an English cucumber, and I like these because they stay firmer longer and they have a few less seeds than the standard cucumber. As you can see, I'm taking my vegetable peeler and I'm not peeling the entire cucumber. I'm leaving just a little bit of skin on the cucumber. So when I get ready to slice it up, it will have that checkered look, if you will. I also have green onions. I'm going to cut the green onions in somewhat of larger chunks or larger pieces because, hey, it's a cucumber, onion, and tomato salad. And then you can see we have these beautiful stem tomatoes. I'm going to cut them up in a sizable amount as well. And then we're going to add on some green onion. Here's how we are looking on the sauce, y'all. I have it on a very, very low simmer. You can see the cream tends to separate from the butter, in which I could add more milk, but I don't think I am. I may just add a little chicken broth. Taste it. I'm going to taste it. It depends on how rich it is. If it's super rich, because I know I still have to add cheese. Now I'm going to go ahead and go in with the cheddar. I'll probably end up adding some carnation. Go in with the cheddar. Then we're going to go in with our pepper jack. All right, y'all. Stir in the pepper jack. Ooh la la. Oh yes. Don't need any salt because this is primarily cheese. I'm going to add just a little carnation. We're going to add a little bacon. We're going to make a little, this is a slurry. This is equal parts flour and water. About a teaspoon each, I would say. Now, my reason for using a slurry is because I didn't add very much cheese. I didn't want this to be a cheese sauce. I just wanted it to be something creamy and delicious, not like melted cheese over the fish. I didn't want the sauce to be really heavy. So because we didn't add very much cheese, that's why I'm also adding the slurry. Now, whenever you make a slurry, which is milk and flour or water and flour, once you slowly whisk it in, you have to give the sauce enough time to simmer to cook that flour. Otherwise, if you add it and you don't allow it additional time to simmer, you will be able to taste the flour and you will be able to feel the flour on your tongue as well. So anytime you add in a slurry to thicken your soups, stews, or sauces, just give it some additional time to simmer. And that's what we're going to do now. I actually cooked my bacon in the air fryer. So what I'm doing now is getting the parchment that I cooked the bacon on, and I'm going to put some of the bacon grease inside the sauce as well. So that's what you see me, you can't really see the paper, but I'm just shaking off the parchment that I used in the air fryer to actually cook that bacon. Didn't that bacon turn out beautifully? This was actually my first time doing bacon in the air fryer. I normally cook it in the oven, but it did do a wonderful job. And here is where I've just added some bacon drippings, and I'm showing you the consistency of the sauce. Now, this is what my finished product looks like. You can see it has a little more liquid in it. It has more movement, and it has a little more body at the same time because that flour has cooked through it. And you do see it's not completely smooth because it has the cheese in it. I added the cheese while the butter was hot, so you can see the texture of the cheese. If you want a completely smooth sauce, like if I were using this for a catering, all I would need to do is run the sauce through an emulsifier, and that would break all of it down and it would be smooth like a cream soup. But this was home cooking, and so we enjoyed it just the way it was. I've added that crunchy bacon, some bacon pieces into the sauce in addition to those bacon drippings, so it is delicious. Remember, we had fresh parsley, we had green onion, we have pepper jack cheese, we have cheddar cheese, and we have garlic. So let's prepare for our plating. Before we plate those fish and grits, honey, let's talk about Philippians. Philippians chapter 4, verses 4 through 9. Here is the word. Rejoice in the Lord always. Again, I will say, rejoice. Let your gentle spirit be known to all people. The Lord is near. Do not be anxious about anything, but in everything, by prayer and pleading with thanksgiving, let your requests be known to God. And the peace of God, which surpasses all comprehension, will guard your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus. Verse 8. Finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is commendable, if there is any excellence, and if anything worthy of praise, think about these things. Verse 9, as for the things you have learned and received and heard and seen in me, practice these things, and the God of peace will be with you. Praise God and hallelujah. Please take the time to read it for yourself, because in this very trying time, we're praying for the people in California. We're praying for the families of the bereaved in New Orleans. We're praying for everybody all over the world that is hurting. I'm praying for you. I hope you're praying for me. There are certain areas of my life in which I'm suffering, but we are prayerful. We are prayerful. And this chapter and these verses remind us to rejoice. How do we rejoice in the midst of suffering? How do we rejoice in the midst of our circumstances? We do it based on the biblical instruction. Be anxious for nothing and take everything to God in prayer. That's what the word tells us to do. And then furthermore, the verses 8 and 9 tell us to think on the things that are virtuous. Think on the things that are excellent. Think on the things that are joyous. Think on the things that are truthful. Think on the things that are right. Right? Let me not paraphrase. Think on the things that are honorable, right, pure, lovely, and commendable. And it does say excellent. Think on those things. Living a righteous life takes a lot of effort. So we are to expect it. We are to expect to feel beat down sometimes. We are expect to feel burdened sometimes. We should expect to have to fight for our rights. Literally, fight for your right. We should expect to have to fight for our God-given rights. And then what I had to learn is to not feel bad. When things happen, I'm going through something right now. And I had to learn that when things happen, it's not always personal. You know, there are when the Bible talks about the principalities, there is spiritual warfare happening. It always will. It's written in the book. And because we are living and breathing, we will experience circumstances. We will experience bad and negative things. We will experience life circumstances that aren't fun, that don't seem fair, based on spiritual warfare. And so I want to bring that to you to encourage you that this word has given us instruction on how to live a righteous life and how to have joy and rejoice even in the midst of our circumstances. Not only is it an answer, I'm glad we have an answer. I thank God we have an answer. Not only is it an answer, but it's instruction. This is what we must do. We don't have the right to be tied down and bogged down mentally, physically, depressed, oppressed because of our circumstances. We don't have the right to do that. Not as believers, because the Lord, the word tells us that we are to rejoice. He wants to talk to us. He wants to fellowship with us. He wants to help us solve our problem. He is the creator of all things, heaven and earth, so and everything in between. So it makes sense. It's like puzzle pieces when you think about it. We have heirship to the kingdom, but we have to come to him. We have to talk to him. We have to pray to him. We have to thank him. And then with the word, he has given us instruction. He says, y'all, rejoice. Despite what's happening in your life, rejoice greatly. Rejoice. Verse 4, again. Let me flip back. Rejoice in the Lord always. Again, I will say rejoice. So literally, we have no right to be sad. And I know the psychologists, therapists, they'll tell us it's okay. And it is okay to experience your feelings. But what do you need to do to get out of it? The good book says that we are to rejoice. The good book tells us to lean to our faith. The good book tells us that God will give us peace to surpass all human understanding. So that's what I'm going to do. I don't know what y'all going to do, but that's what I'm going to do. Because I can kill two birds with one stone, as they say. I have instruction. I have life instruction that is written in the form of these Bible verses. And then not only is that instruction that I should live by, that gives me the answers to problems and circumstances that I encounter. But then also, I'm pleasing God by doing what his word says to do. I'm sorry, my light went out. But I'm pleasing God by doing what he asked me to do. He says to rejoice. I say rejoice. He says to not be anxious about anything, but be thankful, not be anxious about anything. Let me get back to that verse. But in everything, by prayer and pleading with thanksgiving, let your requests be known to God. I always want to paraphrase. I know what it says in terms of what it means, but I can't quote the verses. So that's what it says. 3 says, let your gentle spirit be known to all people. So that means even when we are going through something, don't mistreat other people, because everybody is dealing with their own mess. Just think about it. That's why I say from a spiritual standpoint, the more I grow in my mind spiritually, the more life makes sense. Because everybody's going through something and everybody's suffering in one way or another. So when you go through something and when you suffer, don't put your burdens off on other people. It says, let your gentle spirit be known to all people. The Lord is near. Do not be anxious about anything, but in everything by prayer and pleading with thanksgiving, let your requests be known to God. Don't go off on other people and dump your problems off on other people. Don't internalize it and make yourself physically sick. Come to God. We're supposed to be praying to him anyway. We're supposed to be talking to him anyway. He's asking us right here in the word to bring everything, not some things, not the things that are on the right or the left, or not the family things versus the financial things, versus bring everything to God in prayer. And verse 7 says, and the peace of God, and the peace of God. And I can say I'm a living witness, because throughout my troubles, I still have peace. I really do. And the peace of God, which surpasses all comprehension, will guard your hearts, will protect your hearts. See, we want the benefits of the kingdom, but we don't want to live by his rules. We want the benefits, but we don't want to live by his rules. It says, and that means we are to do our part first, bring it to him in prayer. 7 says, and. So you do that, and the peace of God, which surpasses all comprehension, will guard your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus. Who don't want their heart and mind guarded in Christ Jesus? I know I do. I know I do. Verse 8, finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, comma, whatever is honorable, comma, whatever is right, comma, whatever is pure, comma, whatever is lovely, comma, whatever is commendable. If there is any excellence and if anything worthy of praise, think about these things. So it's telling you what to set your mind on. Once you've gone to God in prayer and you've taken your worries and your burdens to him, okay, Lord, then what do I do? Set your mind on excellent things. Set your mind on things that are true. Set your mind on things that are pure and commendable. I just love that we have answers. So yes, it's challenging to try and align your life with the word, but it's here. And I'm trying. And I pray you will too. Now let's get back to our fish and grits. miracle worker, a miracle worker. I want to thank you and praise you too. Your grace and mercy brought me through. I hope you all enjoyed it. Thank you for watching Keisha's Crumbs. And if you enjoyed this video and you're not a crumb catcher already, please be sure to subscribe, like, and leave me a comment down below. Say hello. I'm trying to grow my audience, grow my subscriber base, and grow my community all together. So if there are any other recipes you would like to see me prepare, please be sure to let me know. But subscribe if you're not already subscribed, and make sure you click the notification bell so you can be notified every time I upload a video. Remember, it is better to eat crumbs from the master's table than to eat a feast anywhere else. Love y'all, and see you soon, crumb catchers.